When you start to use the tools, the first to pay attention is what are the disconnections happening in the relationship. You want to move people into this bonding conversation as quick as possible. Health is about feeling competent and worthy. And so as they learn the process, as they learn the language, they became much more competent and feeling worthy because the other person wants connection. The message that we all get in negative cycles is this person doesn't care about me. They don't want to be with me. They don't value me. That's the message. That's the wrong message that we're getting in a negative cycle. So as they continue to do these repair and bonding conversations, they create this new corrective emotional experience. This is the goal of the EMC, is that create these new corrective emotional experiences where the message is, I do care about you. You are important to me. I value you. You matter to me. Because the key question in attachment relationship is, are you there for me? Do I matter to you? Can I count on you? When you do the processing and you help people to have these bonding conversations where they become aware on a different level of the impact they have on each other and how much they scare each other in those moments, they can tune into their emotions, they can take risks, and they can say things like, I get so scared when we don't have these one-on-ones anymore, and makes me feel kind of sort of alone in that moment. I could get probably angry, but actually what's happening, it really scares me that maybe you don't miss those conversations. And the manager can respond, say, oh, I do miss those conversations. But every time we get together and I hear complaining and whining, I get scared that I'm somehow failing and somehow I'm not good enough as a manager. Oh, no, you're good enough. Then they continue to have this reciprocal conversation where they start to create more safety with each other. They start to address the amygdala that is hijacking the prefrontal cortex. It's addressing the amygdala saying, hey, I'm here for you. I see how scared you are. I see how sad it feels and lonely it feels for you. And I don't want you to feel this way because I'm right here. I do care about you. I care about your feelings. I care about your experiences. Gosh, thank you for sharing. Now we're at a completely different level. I hear a lot when people say, I don't know why I'm so angry all the time. And so it's so devastating for us that we get into the negative cycle and then we get stuck in those behaviors because we don't know how to repair. And the negative cycle actually really hurts us emotionally, physically, and the relationship. It just creates this toxic environment for all of us. I have interviewed even CEOs who are very financially successful, who still think of relationships that were never repaired. They still think of those relationships. And they say to themselves, I wish I had some tools to repair it because my life would be so much more at peace. Because relationships is actually what makes us continue to thriving in the world, for us to be actually satisfied with our life. The beauty of this process for us as trainers, as help people to drive the change in their team, is that we have a map. This is what I like about this. It makes me feel relaxed when I do this process because I have a structure, I have the form, I have the tools, I have, this is something new that we created with the stages, with all the tools right here. So it's easy for you and you can just have it right here in front of you. You can practice these skills and techniques easily. Emotional responsiveness is key in connection. Emotional responsiveness. This is what we need. We are teaching people how to respond to emotions, how to slow things down, how to hold that space of emotional experience. As people learn how to tune into that emotional channel, that creates a whole new experience for people where they can feel accepted. And when people feel valued, accepted, heard, they start to change and everything changes for them.
It's interesting. The word conflict doesn't fit well. I think, even in that example, those videos, I don't think either the manager or the direct report would have called that conflict. Each would have maybe thought negatively about the other person and been stressed about the other person, that this one is a moan and a complainer, or that my manager doesn't listen to me or pay me attention. But I don't think either of those people would have called that conflict at all. So when we're talking about EMC and we use the word conflict, because so many people avoid conflict, they tend to think of conflict as shouting at each other or fighting, and don't recognize, I think, the application then of EMC in the workplace, because they're not recognizing disconnects. I do think disconnects are, or disconnections are, is a better word for what we're working with, but it's like it's our language, it's not yet common language. And when we use the word conflict, people don't necessarily recognize that they're in conflict because they don't call that conflict. So I'm still wondering about the language. How do we help people to recognize that this is a solution for what they're experiencing, even if they don't think that they're experiencing conflict and aren't familiar with the word disconnection?
In our world of emotional connection, conflict is the inflammation. The virus is emotional disconnection. You're correct that people do have different levels of understanding what conflict is. They have different tolerance level of conflict. Many people, they say that if I just don't engage, I'm not in the conflict. This is one of the misconceptions that people have. If I don't engage, I'm not in the conflict, where every person contributes to the conflict, to the negative cycle. So everything that we're doing, it really predicts success, predicts engagement, predicts performance, predicts job satisfaction, predicts continuing positive functioning. And I feel like this is a new standard of workplace relationships. We have a process. It has to be kind of like any other process to enter an order, or if you have a process to manufacture a product. This is a process of creating strong workplace relationships. It's a work instruction. It becomes part of the culture. And it's very easy. Anytime when people feel disconnected, they don't need to feel awkward or weak or scared to talk about. They can just bring the form and say, hey, I kind of like sense that we're in a negative cycle. We got off maybe. Let's do our reconnection form. Let's have that open conversation. It's a must for every leader, for every trainer, for every HR manager, for every team member to learn to create a more positive and thriving culture.